All right, John, 3 questions on a What If Wednesday. What's on the rundown, my man?
What if the no vote wins in Jackson County and KC tenants take all the credit, Pete?
Well, then I'm just going to jump out the window here at Corporate Woods because that would be Mark's already looking to put a net out there for me. That would be a disingenuous interpretation of why the no vote might potentially win. It will win in part because of KC tenants, as Patrick Tuohy and I just discussed. But it will also be in part because, well, there's a faction of people who just want to send a message to the team that you've stunk lately and we don't want to give you money for a new ballpark. There are people who are trying to save the K, which we know is not going to happen, but it doesn't mean they aren't going to do it or vote that way or vote because of that. There are people who are ticked off at Jackson County for their tax assessment fiasco and just want to stick it to everybody and stick it to the elites and the politicians, and they're going to vote no. And all of those things have nothing to do with KC tenants, people who don't want the ballpark to go downtown. That's not motivation for KC tenants. It's not going to be because of them. But my fear is that they will take all the credit. And then you'll have a lapdog media in this town who will say, well, look at these guys at KC tenants. Whoa, they're the new power brokers in Kansas City and Jackson County. And it's like, no, they're what they were before the vote came in. They're the same socialists they were 2 weeks ago. They just happened to get a win, but they didn't get a win on their own. The vote no will not win because of KC tenants. It will be in part because of KC tenants, but it will not be because of KC tenants. It won't. And my fear is that you're going to have a willing media establishment in Kansas City, led by the Star and just some of the clueless TV reporters who don't know any better, who will just start interviewing KC tenants, will have really no depth on the issue. It'll be very surface area, and they'll get plenty of media publicity and media attention for something that they take credit for when it won't be exclusively because of them. It won't, John.
All right, what if RFK Jr. was actually serious about running for president?
Well, then he wouldn't have picked Nicole Shanahan as his running mate yesterday. It kind of got buried by the Baltimore Bridge story, but RFK announced his pick for vice president, and it's Nicole Shanahan, a Silicon Valley attorney and an investor. And, heck, I would have taken Aaron Rodgers over Nicole Shanahan. That's just ridiculous. So Nicole Shanahan is a 6-figure donor to George Gascon, the pro-crime George Soros-backed prosecutor who helped wreck San Francisco and is currently wrecking Los Angeles. She also spent big on Measure J. What is that? It's a Los Angeles measure to reroute spending from law enforcement and prisons to social services and mental health treatment. In other words, not putting criminals and psychopaths behind bars. It was a far-left pick by RFK. Maybe he's looking to shore up his progressive bona fides. I don't know, but it's a major red flag. I mean, if RFK was serious, he would have picked, for a truly independent ticket, he should have picked a disaffected Republican. If you want to be the contrast from the Biden v. Trump rematch, you bring balance and middle ground. Instead, he picked a far-left Californian who doesn't believe in law enforcement. That's a loser pick for RFK. Now, RFK was just in Kansas City, a couple of months ago, and we had him on the show, and I reached out to his campaign person yesterday trying to get him on today, but never heard back, which is too bad because I wanted to ask him about these things, but couldn't make it happen, unfortunately. But it tells me it's a vanity election. He's trying to raise this Nicole Shanahan's name ID, maybe, because I don't know why else you would pick someone out of California who is involved with big tech, anti-law enforcement, and far-left progressive ideas. That's not a truly independent ticket. So I think it's a loser pick from RFK, and he would have been better off picking Aaron Rodgers. I never thought I'd say that, but that would have been a much better selection than what he got yesterday, John.
All right, and finally, what if Gene Peters Baker was tougher on criminals than cops?
Oh, man. Well, if she was tougher on criminals than cops, we wouldn't have this story that I'll spend a little more time on next hour, but we wouldn't have this story that Fox 4 reported on, where a man who admitted to killing his ex-girlfriend here in Kansas City, Malik Weaver, served only 251 days behind bars. He shot his ex-girlfriend at a gas station here in Kansas City, and he called the police, and he admitted to doing it. And what happened? Well, he spent less than 9 months behind bars for it. That's right. And Fox 4, to its credit, did a story on this. He eventually faced 4 felony counts, including second-degree murder, but that was about it. Meantime, you look at Eric DeValcanaire, former KCPD detective, did his job, ended up shooting Cameron Lamb and killing Cameron Lamb. But the evidence, as we've talked about on the show, overwhelmingly supports the shooting. Not that anyone wants to see anybody else get shot, but when you're doing your job, you should not end up in prison. Eric DeValcanaire has been in prison for 161 days. And counting, by the way. He's still in prison today. Meantime, the Jackson County prosecutor left a guy in jail for 251 days who admitted to killing an ex-girlfriend. 19-year-old Kaylee Love. And then, by the way, what happened to this guy when he got out of the can? He went over to Johnson County. That's right. He went over to Johnson County, and within 90 days of getting out and being on probation, he racked up a felony drug charge in Johnson County. That's why if you sit there and you say to yourself, well, I don't live in Jackson County, who cares? Well, when these criminals are getting slapped on the wrist in Jackson, they're let out onto the streets, and they're causing chaos and committing crimes in your backyard, suddenly you care. And you should care.